Thank you very much, Mataji and Prabhuji. So we are continuing to study Sri Brahma Samhita. So we'll continue with prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkrupatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramanandam Madhavam. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So last couple of weeks we saw the history and introduction of Sri Brahma Samhita, and then last week we discussed about the purpose of Brahma Samhita, this book that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote. So we are going to take a journey of the Golok of Vrindavan and about the different potencies of Lord Krishna and his reciprocation with devotees and the different demigods, what his creations are. So we'll start with the very first verse from chapter 5. īśvaraḥ paramaḥ Kṛṣṇa sac-cid-ānanda-vigrahaḥ anādir ādir Govinda sarva-kāraṇa-kāraṇam. Kṛṣṇa, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes, sarva-kāraṇa-kāraṇam. We'll quickly read the purport. There are quite a few heavy English words that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has used. So we'll try to understand them. Kṛṣṇa is the exalted supreme entity having his eternal name, eternal form, eternal attribution, and eternal pastimes. The very name Kṛṣṇa implies his loving, attracting designation, expressing by his eternal nomenclature the acme, that means the pinnacle or the highest or supreme of entity. The eternal, beautiful, heavenly, blue-tinged body, glowing with the intensity of ever-existing knowledge, has a flute in both his hands. As his inconceivable spiritual energy is all extending, he still maintains his all-charming medium size by his qualifying spiritual instrumentals. His all-accommodating supreme subjectivity is nicely manifested in his eternal form. The concentrated all-time presence, uncovered knowledge, and inebriating felicity have their beauty in him. The mundane manifestive portion of his own self is known as all-pervading Paramatma, or īśvaraḥ, that means superior Lord, or Vishnu, means all-fostering. Hence, it is evident that Kṛṣṇa is sole supreme Godhead. His unrivaled or unique spiritual body of super excellent charm is externally unveiled with innumerable spiritual instrumentals or senses and unreckonable attributes, keeping their signifying location properly adjusting at the same time by his inconceivable contemplative powers. This beautiful spiritual figure is identical with Kṛṣṇa, and spiritual entity of Kṛṣṇa is identical with his own figure. The very intensely blended entity of eternal presence of felicitous cognition is the charming targeted holding or transcendental icon. It follows that the conception of the indistinguishable formless magnitude or Brahman which is indolent, lacks presentment of cognitive bliss, is merely a penumbra of intensely blended glow of the three concomitants, with the blissful, that is Ananda, or substantive, that is eternal, and the cognitive, that is Chit potency, so sac-cid-ānanda potency. The transcendental manifestive icon Kṛṣṇa in his original face is primordial background of the magnitudinal infinite Brahman and of the all pervasive oversoul Kṛṣṇa as truly visioned in his variegated pastimes, such as owner of transcendental cows, chief of cowherds, consort of milkmaids, ruler of the terrestrial abode Gokula, and object of worship by the transcendental residents of Goloka beauties as Govinda. He is the root cause of all causes, who are the predominating and predominated agents of this universe. The glance of his projected fractional portion in the sacred originating water with the personal oversoul or paramatma gives rise to a secondary potency nature who creates this mundane universe. This oversoul's intermediate energy brings forth the individual souls analogously to the animated rays of the sun. This book is the treatise of Kṛṣṇa, so the preamble is enacted by chanting his name in the beginning. It's pretty heavy here. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur tries to get all the points in this verse. So first, īśvara parama Kṛṣṇa. So he here is mentioning that īśvara literally means controller, the controller here. So every living entity to some degree is a controller. Everybody has some control to some degree over someone else, or even over their own body. Like a husband may have some control over his wife, or a wife may have some control over the husband. A family person may have some control on the family. A teacher may have some control on the students, and a president may have a little bit more control on the citizens of the country. But there must be somebody who is the supreme controller, and that's what this verse in the very first line describes, that īśvara parama. Parama means supreme. There is nobody superior to him. That is Kṛṣṇa. So the name Kṛṣṇa is very significant here. And here Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is also mentioning here that the very name Kṛṣṇa implies his love attracting designation. Kṛṣṇa, the meaning of Kṛṣṇa is very beautifully given in one of the verses in Mahabharata, and that is also quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita here, that Krishir bhuvachaka shabdo nascha nirvritti vachaka tayor aikyam param brahma Kṛṣṇa iti abhidhiyate. So Krish, the first syllable of word Kṛṣṇa, is bhuvachaka shabda. Bhuvachaka. So we'll read the translation. The word Krish is the attractive feature of the Lord's existence. And na means spiritual pleasure or the transcendental bliss. When verbs Krish is added to affix na, when these two words are put together, that becomes Kṛṣṇa, which indicates the Param Brahma or the absolute truth. And it is also mentioned that Kṛṣṇa is the most appropriate name for God. Prabhupada several times explains in his lectures that God has no names, but he has, at the same time, he has unlimited names depending on his pastimes, or depending on his reciprocation or relationship with his devotees, and so many things. Just like as a son of Yashoda, he is called Yashodanandan, or same thing as son of Devaki, he is called as Devakinandan, or son of Vasudev, he is called as Vasudev, or as a charioteer of Arjuna, he is called Parthasarathi. In the same way, he has many names, or killer of demon Madhu, he is called Madhusudan. So he has unlimited names. So God has unlimited names, but the most appropriate name for God is Kṛṣṇa, because he is all attractive. He is all ever existing of existence of attraction for everybody, and he is the transcendental bliss. And that's why Kṛṣṇa, this name, just when we read this, that Kṛṣṇa means this transcendental bliss, that eternal attractive feature of the Lord's existence, or it is attractive existence. So the word bhu means existence, as well as word bhu also means attraction. And here Prabhupada translates, combines both the meanings here, attractive existence. And Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary also explains this verse, quotes this verse, that for Vaishnavas, this name Kṛṣṇa is very dear, and that's why the name Kṛṣṇa is the most appropriate name for God. The word bhu, thus interpreted, means existence and attraction, and na is the transcendental bliss or the spiritual pleasure. And that's why the most suitable name for Kṛṣṇa is for God, or the Parabrahma, Supreme Brahman, is Kṛṣṇa. And the potency of name Kṛṣṇa is also mentioned in the Brahmanda Purana, where it says that 1,000 names of Vishnu, when one chants the name of Rama, it is equivalent to chanting 1,000 names of Vishnu. Sahasranama Tattulyam Rama Nama Vranani. So, and when one chant name of Kṛṣṇa once, that is equivalent to chanting 3 times the name of Ram. So once chanting name of Kṛṣṇa is equivalent to 3,000 names of Vishnu. So the potency of name Vishnu is, we can imagine from that just by calling once Kṛṣṇa, we have called 3,000 times name of Vishnu, or 3 times name of Lord Ramchandra. So that is the potency of Lord Kṛṣṇa's name. Even in Padma Purana, when Narad Muni is explaining this, he refers that the most appropriate name, Kṛṣṇa himself mentions that the most appropriate name for me is Kṛṣṇa. And about his supremacy, that he is the Bhagavan himself, we probably have, we remember the empire verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, where in the 1st canto, 3rd chapter, after narrating many incarnations of Kṛṣṇa, it is said that there is no limit to Kṛṣṇa's incarnations or avatars. It is compared with as many waves are there in the ocean, just like there are unlimited waves and they are forming continuously. In the same manner, there are unlimited incarnations of Kṛṣṇa. And then afterwards it mentions that etech amshakala pumsa Kṛṣṇastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Rudayanti Yuge Yuge. That all these incarnations, those have been narrated by Vyasadeva or Sutta Goswami, these are either amsha or kala. They are either plenary portions or the portions of plenary portions of the absolute truth. But Kṛṣṇa is the supreme Bhagavan. He is the Bhagavan himself. He is the source of all these incarnations. And he appears in this universe, material universe, again and again. For what? Indrari Vyakulam Lokan Hrudayanti Yuge Yuge. To Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Cha Dushkritam. So Indra's enemies, to destroy the Indra's enemies and establish Indra's rule, because Indra, even though he is a demigod and he is in the Karma Mishra Bhakti, but he is representative of Kṛṣṇa. So to establish his supremacy and to defeat the demons, he comes again and again in this material world. And that's why Kṛṣṇa is the most appropriate name, and that's what Brahmaji mentions here in his prayer, that īśvaraḥ parama Kṛṣṇa, that the supreme absolute truth, the supreme controller is Kṛṣṇa. And then he also says that he has a form, sac-cid-ānanda-vigrahaḥ. Now, when we say that he is sac-cid-ānanda, that he is eternal, all knowledgeable, and complete, full of ananda, or full of transcendental bliss. And that's where sometimes Mayavadi use this term, and they may mention that That is the reason, because the Supreme Brahman is Sachidananda, and that's why he cannot have a form. But to counter that, Srila Jiva Goswami says that even though he quotes this verse and he mentions that even though he's Sachidananda, his Sat is eternal, he's full of knowledge, or he's fully cognizant, and he's full of transcendental bliss or spiritual pleasure, but he still has a spiritual form, because this word says specifically Vigraha. He has a form, but because his form is beyond our conception, beyond our material conception, it is full spirit. That's why it is inconceivable to us, and that's what here Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions, that as his spiritual ever-existing forms is, he mentioned somewhere that he and his form is non-different. That Kṛṣṇa, the name and his form and his paraphernalia are not different, because it is absolute. And in absolute world, there is no difference between name, form, Kṛṣṇa himself as a person, and his paraphernalia. Everything is same. And that's why Prabhupada also many times mentions that when one chants offenselessly name of Kṛṣṇa, he is actually associating with Kṛṣṇa himself. Because Nama Chintamani Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta Abhinnatvat Nama Namina. Because Kṛṣṇa's name is Chintamani, he is transcendental, and it is the full of consciousness. It is non-different. It is not like a person in the material world who is different than his body or his name, because his name is given to him after he comes in this material world. So his name and his body and the person himself are different, but that is not the case for Kṛṣṇa, he being the absolute truth. He and his name are same and Purna Shuddha. It is completely pure, free from all contamination, and it is Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated. It is never ever contaminated by anything. Abhinnatvat Nama Namina. Abhinna. It is non-different. Nama, that means the name, and Nami, one who holds that name. So Nama and Nami are non-different. That's what Kṛṣṇa is, and that's why this sac-cid-ānanda-vigrahaḥ, he is having a transcendental, eternal, spiritual, full of knowledge form. And he is completely free, independent, as the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, the aphorism Brahma Sutra mentions, Janmadiyasya yatah annayaditarascha abhidnyas swarat. So he is swarat, he is completely independent. At the same time, he is abhidnya, he is all knowledgeable. Or rather, he is the source of all knowledge. Everything that considered as knowledge comes from him. And that's why he is sac-cid-ānanda-vigrahaḥ. And he is anādir. So he is without beginning. There is no beginning for him, because he is the one who exists before the creation. He is the one who is always there even during the creation. And even when this whole material creation is annihilated, he still remains as he is. That's why there is no beginning for him. Rather, he is Adi. He is the origin of everything. And he is Govinda. So this Govinda is another name that is Brahmaji mentions here, that Govinda is one of the very important name that is given importance, because he is eternally in Goloka Vrindavan performing pastimes, just like he performs in Vrajadham with his eternal associates. And that is also mentioned here, that because Kṛṣṇa is Govinda, Kṛṣṇa is truly visioned in his variegated pastimes, such as owner of transcendental cows. So he is the owner of the Surabhi cows, and he is the one who gives pleasure to the Surabhi cows. He is the chief of all the gopas or the cowherds. He is consort of all the gopis or the milkmaids. He is ruler of that terrestrial abode called Goloka, and object of worship by the transcendental residents of Vrajadham. And that's why he is also mentioned as Govinda. And he is sarva-kāraṇa-kāraṇam. So everything here in this material world or everywhere has a cause and effect. Everything happens because of certain cause. Even we get birth in this material world because of certain effect, karmic reactions what we have in the balance, depending on the mercy of the Lord. Karmana daiva netrena jantur deho pupattaye. We are put into certain type of mother's body depending on the karma balance what we have, and depending on the desires what we had, and based on the daiva netrena, by the order of the Supreme Lord or the order of the providence. So everything what is happening here has some cause for that effect. But Kṛṣṇa does not have any cause. He is rather the cause of everything. He is the original cause of everything. And that's why it is mentioned here, sarva-kāraṇa-kāraṇam. And in the end, Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that just by mere glance of his projected fractional portion to this material energy, everything is created just by his glance. And this is also mentioned in the 7th verse of this chapter, where we will eventually read that when Mahavishnu just glances over the material energy, whole creation happens. And as Kṛṣṇa mentions, sarva yonishu kaunteya aham bija pradapita, that he is the bija pradapita. Just by his glance, when he glances over this material energy, everything, all the jivas are created, and he is the seed-giving father for all the living entities. And the analogy given here, the oversoul, this Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur uses this word for super soul. That's what Prabhupada uses. So the oversoul's intermediate energy brings forth the individual souls analogously, means similar to or comparatively, just like he gives an analogy here. What is that analogy? To the emanated rays of the sun, just like sun rays are emanated from the sun. As Kṛṣṇa mentions in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that he first gives the material verses, Bhumi rapo analo vayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankara itiyam me bhinna prakriti rashtadad. My 8 separated material energies, that earth, water, fire, air, ether, and mind, intelligence, and false ego. And after that, he says that apareyam itastu anya prakritim viddhime param, that other than this apara prakriti, that is material energy, there is some para prakriti. And what is that? Jiva bhutam, that is the spiritual spark, all the spiritual entities here. Jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. And then he says that etad yonini bhutani sarvani iti upadharaya aham kṛṣṇasya jagata prabhava pralayastata. That know that everything what you see in this creation, that is spiritual or material, that is etad yonini bhutani, that is made of all these two energies, only these two energies, that is spiritual and the material. And know that I am the source of this whole creation. I am the source of both the spiritual as well as material energies. Or he also says in the 10th chapter, aham sarvasya prabhava mattas sarvam pravartate. So in the same manner, the analogy here, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives that just like the sun rays are ever emanated from sun, but sun is the source of that energy, that is heat and light. In the same manner, Kṛṣṇa is the source of all the energy that is material and spiritual in this whole creation. There are certain points I wanted to mention about from the. So there are some verses that Jiva Goswami quotes where Mother Devaki also mentions about how Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Personality of God, and in the 10th canto when she's offering the prayers, and how Lord Brahma, when after Brahma Vimohan Leela, when he's offering the prayers, he mentions that Lord Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Brahman or Par-Brahman, and how all these Vrajavasis are associating with him and having that loving relationship with him, and having these loving pastimes with him. So those are the some places or some examples where Krishna is also mentioned or referred as Parabrahma or the Supreme Brahman. So I think it is 9:28. I'll stop there and we can take some reflections or if there are some questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanyavad Pranam Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for actually explaining the Brahma Samhita verses and taking the service of, sharing us the knowledge of Brahma Samhita. So, Prabhu, this is always confusing for me, Brahma Samhita, basically. So, I wanted to also hear from you. So, basically, it is better for us maybe that before we come to you, once, we go through the translation and everything, purport, we see such a big purports, right? So that, if we have, after hearing from you, we can have, some questions from you, Prabhu. But basically, I have missed most of the portion today because I'm in some important call. But next time, probably next week, I'll come up with all the questions by reading the Brahma Samhita versus what you have explained here. But at the end, for today's, at the end, I joined and yeah, can you go to the translation end, Prabhuji? Because these, the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami's Maharaj's actually language is very tough to understand always. So unless we understand the true meaning behind that, it is very tough to understand. So can you go to the purport last lines, what you have mentioned just now, Prabhu? At the end, you are given an explanation of, yes, Prabhu. So here, the last four words, I want to understand the four sentences. The glance of his projected fractional portion in the sacred originating water, that is the personal oversoul or Paramatma. This is all really, really confusing, the words, Prabhu. I understand about the creation, what you have explained, like Mahavishnu coming, glancing over through Shambhu to the agitating Prakriti, and Pradhan, and then also Mahatattva, everything I understand, but these sentences is very hard to understand. The glance of his projected fractional portion. This might be the glance in the sacred originating water. That is the personal oversoul or Paramatma. You have mentioned that oversoul is Paramatma in the next sentence, but here two things are mentioned here: the personal oversoul or Paramatma, and gives rise to a secondary potency nature. The secondary creation. I don't know who creates this mundane universe. I absolutely not able to understand this sentence also. Next sentence also, this oversoul's intermediate energy brings forth the individual souls analogously to the emanated rays of the sun. That means creation happens through the glance of Mahavishnu, and there is no role of Paramatma exactly in that creation part. Then why, if you since that you have mentioned that oversoul is a Paramatma, then how do Paramatma interacts in the creation, and how do understand? And the example analogy is given, like the rays are coming from the sun, but how it is related with this oversoul's intermediate energy brings completely. I'm in confusion, Prabhu. I'm so sorry. Maybe.
No, and that's fair, Mataji, because these words are a little bit heavy, but what you said exactly, that's what is my understanding, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is using. So the glance of his projected fractional portion. So the fractional portion here is Mahavishnu. That is Krishna's portion that is mentioned here. Then in the sacred originating water with the personal oversoul. So his personal super soul. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur uses word oversoul here, which Prabhupada refers as supersoul or Paramatma. It gives rise to the secondary potency, nature who creates. So secondary potency here is the material energy which creates his mundane universes.
Then why did the term Paramatma has been used here, Prabhu?
Or Paramatma. So he is referring this or this. You can use the two terms for the same thing. That's how you use, right?
So oversoul is a Mahavishnu only then, right?
Correct. So Mahavishnu, if you remember, Mahavishnu is the super soul for whole material creation. Then Garbhodakashaya Vishnu is the super soul or Paramatma or soul of the one universe, single universe. And then the Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, which is the soul as a super soul, he enters in every atom and every living entity. So that is the all pervasive super soul. In these three features, these three Purusha incarnations, these are the three those are Purusha avatars who take over this material creation,
Right.
who are maintaining this whole creation.
Okay. So, give rise to a secondary potency nature. What is secondary potency nature, Prabhuji? That is material world? Or?
Secondary nature, yes, that is material nature, and that the secondary creation is done by Brahmaji. If you remember the 10 subject matters of creation given in the second chapter, second canto, 10th chapter, very first verse. Atra sargo visargascha. So sarga is the first creation, that is the material creation, that is done by Lord Krishna or Mahavishnu himself, and then the visarga or the secondary creation done by Brahmaji. So Brahmaji is given, basically the understanding is Brahmaji is given raw material as well as intelligence for creation. So the raw material and intelligence is the first creation that is done by the Supreme Lord or his plenary portion in the form of Mahavishnu, and Brahmaji uses that material and intelligence after praying for the secondary creation.
Prabhu, here Brahmaji's name is not mentioned, right?
No. Yep.
Yeah, because secondary potency nature means if it is a secondary creation, Brahma's name actually should be there, but Brahma's name is not there. Only Mahavishnu name, right? So, Prabhu, in the next sentence, this oversoul's intermittent energy brings forth the supreme soul, the super soul, maybe, right? Energy brings forth the individual souls analogously to the emanated. That means that this is again talking about the creation only, right?
Correct. It gives birth to the individual souls, just like sarva yonishu kaunteya, murtaya sambhavantiya. Tasa. So his energies are emanating, basically are coming out of him, and all the jivas get birth and they are created again in this material world, just like rays are emanated from the sun. That's what my understanding is. And he gives this analogously because he's using this as analogy. Analogously literally means comparatively or using the similarly, just like an example he is giving.
Okay.
And I'll just, Prabhu, if you don't mind, I'll just mention.
Please, Prabhuji, I was going to just ask you.
So the secondary potency that is mentioned here gives rise to a secondary potency. It's not just the material ingredient, but the personification material potency, that is Durga. She is referred here as secondary potency. And she is the one who Srishti Sati Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha. She is the one who creates, maintains and destroys all the material creations. So Brahma's name is not here because Brahma is also created by that secondary potency, Durga. She is the one who gives birth to all the Brahmas in all the universes. Okay, so material energy is sum total of all the material energy is Durga, who is actually the consort of Lord Shiva.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hari Hari.
Prabhu, thank you, Prabhu, Shankarana Prabhu. But actually, Brahma comes from the navel of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, right? Then how does it mean that Durga creates Brahma?
Prabhu, you can go ahead and answer this.
Sorry, I missed the question, Mataji. Can you please repeat again?
Prabhu said, Shankarana Prabhu, the Durga, right? Durga is the reason for everything, in the material world, of course. But Brahma is born of the abdomen of
navel of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Yeah.
So how does we reconcile this?
So what is the question? That's what I'm.
Question is, how does Durga Devi creates Brahma?
Prabhuji, are you okay to continue with the call? It's almost
I was going to
9:40.
mention, but I didn't want to stop question of Mataji also.
Maybe we can take it next time.
Take this question and then we can stop here, if you can.
Sure, we can do that, Prabhu. That's all right. 9:30. Yeah. So I'll just mention quickly one line. I think so. Material creation means every unit is created. It is created by the glance of Mahavishnu over Durga, which is carried by Yama and handed over to Shambhu. So material universes are created by Durga Devi only. So in that sense, all the universes are created by Durga, And within that, Mahavishnu expands himself with Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, from whose navel Brahma comes. So Brahma is also a part of the universe only. But Garbhodakshayi Vishnu cannot be said that he's created by Durga, because he is the expansion of Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu has expanded himself into as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. So he is, even though entering into the universe, but he's not the part of the universe. He is still transcendental. But Brahma, who is born from the navel of Vishnu, is actually the material creation. He has a material body which is subjected to destruction. So that is creation of Maya Devi.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Yeah, I think we can stop here today. Adya Seva, Prabhu, we can quickly hear from you, but we'll stop today.
Just a quick question. I'm not going to take a lot of time.
Yes, Prabhu.
My question is related to the holy name. So we know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came around 15th century, and then he propagated this, the dharma of this age, Kali Yuga.
Mhm.
The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and he's like a stalwart. I mean, he introduced it and he made it popular.
Mhm.
Now my question is, this is we now understand clearly that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, you can stay in touch with the Lord's pleasure potency, and also you can become a devotee of Krishna. And this is the best way in this age of Kali to associate and become a devotee of Krishna. Now my question is, before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and after Krishna left this material universe, I mean this earth planet, there is a gap of around 4,500 years. And in that time, there may be few devotees, and how did they sustain their devotional service without chanting the holy name of the Lord? Hope you understood the question. Either Shankarananda Prabhu or you can give the answer.
So my understanding is, Prabhu, they were still chanting Lord's name, but because, as Krishna says, sac-cid-ānanda-vigrahaḥ mahata yogo nashta parantapa, so he came to re-establish that same knowledge. In the same manner, Lord Chaitanya came to re-establish this, because this mantra is given in Kali Santarana Upanishad, as well as it is mentioned in the, I guess, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, that Harer Nama Eva Kevalam. But because it was lost, Lord Chaitanya wanted to show everyone, and that's why who can be the best devotee of Lord other than Lord himself. So he himself came as his devotee and he propagated his name, and that's why he's called Namo Maha, as Mahavadanyaya, that he's the most munificent person on this planet who gave us the greatest treasure of this world, that is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So I'll let Shankaran Prabhu add to this, and then we can stop.
Perfect. The holy name of the Lord is always chanted, but based on the Yuga Dharma, the propagation is not, in other yugas so prominent, because in Kali Yuga, Harinam is the chanting of the holy name is the Yuga Dharma. Therefore, it is propagated very widely, but in other yugas, because the Yuga Dharma is different, so it's not very much propagated. But it's always there. It's always there.
Mhm. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much,
All right,
Prabhuji.
Stop here today.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Vancha
Vancha kalpataru.
Vaishnavebhyo namo
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
So much, Prabhu.